Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Profitable Conversations Talk Show. I am your host, Dr. Jessica Houston, and I am so excited about what we have to share with you today. All I'm going to say is fasten your seatbelts and get ready for the ride. I have a powerful panel, and I'm going to allow them to introduce themselves. So I'll start with Pastor Cynthia.
Well, hello, everybody. I am excited to be here today. I am overwhelmed for the invite. Listen, this day was going to be profitable. We've talked a lot about a lot of things, but today will be a profitable conversation. I am Pastor Cynthia Boone. I am the owner of the Rena Project. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but I just absolutely love being here. Thank you, Dr. Jessica, for allowing me to come and be on the panel today.
Glad to have you.
Good morning, I'm LaShanna Stevens, and I'm the owner of Sound Advice Counseling in Macon, Georgia, downtown. And again, I am also very excited to be here with you this morning. I thank you for the invitation as well.
Thank you. Glad to have you.
I'm Elder Renee Ingram. I am the founder of Beautiful Ashes Outreach Ministries in Americus, Georgia. I, too, am also excited for being here today.
Oh, I'm so happy to have you all. I'm telling you. Let me go ahead and tell you what we are talking about today. Our topic is surviving the wilderness.
Yes.
My goodness, how many of you have ever had a personal wilderness season? Not just a personal wilderness hour or day, but a season when you're getting hit and you can't see your way. A wilderness is a pathless region. It's a dry place, and many times it feels like a lonely place. I say it feels that way because we all know as Christians, as believers, that God will never leave us nor forsake us, but sometimes you can get hit so hard that you feel like, where are you, God? I can't feel you. I can't hear you. When I read that scripture the last time, it worked, and today it's not working. So when you get to that place of feeling like you're in that wilderness, you need a strategy to survive it. And you might be saying, well, I don't want to survive. I want to get out. Well, let me tell you something. You might want to get out, but you're not moving until God says it's time. So I want to start. I want to go with Elder Renee. I want to find out from you a personal wilderness moment that you've had, and what did you do to pull out of it?
Okay, well, Dr. Jessica, I've had several wilderness moments, but one in particular, it just seemed like I was never going to get out of it. It seemed like God wasn't hearing my prayers. And during that season, I was in the last stages of my first marriage. And my husband at the time, of course, he was the breadwinner in the house. And when he up and left, and then I was already out on my medical leave. And when I got back to work from being on medical leave, I lost my job the same day. And not only that, but I went to apply for unemployment. And for months and months, they would turn me down, said I was not qualified for it. But God, I lost my vehicle in the process. I was depressed, went into a depression in the process. I became suicidal. But God, He kept me in the midst of all of that. And so after months of fasting and praying and going through and crying and asking God, where are you? And questioning whether He was real. Questioning whether He was hearing my prayer. And I knew He was. And as I began to realize who God was, and at that moment, that's who I really realized who He was. And He is who He say He is. And so, but the thing about it is my lights got turned off in my house. We had no food, and then the little food we did have, because our lights got turned off, we had to throw it out. I was not on any government assistance or anything. But God, He supplied And the thing I love about God is that sometimes He'll allow us to go through, you know, to get us to the next level in Him.
Amen.
And so I had to learn something through that process. And I did learn something, that if I trust in God, if I put all my trust in Him, He will supply for me.
Amen.
And He did just that.
He always does.
He did just
Would you
that.
jump in?
Well, yeah, you know, I didn't have that sweet testimony, you know, that I prayed and I fasted. I just didn't do none of that. You know, I was distraught. I was in a place of I didn't know what to do, because, you know, coming up in church from going into church and joining church at 9 years old, my mom was the type mom, she was trying a few things out. And so it wasn't really much of you telling me how to do this, because she was trying a few things out. So when I went through my experience, I married my last husband, and I said, don't ask me how many it been, and that's my testimony. but I said, my ex-husband, he wanted to move out from my state, you know, the city that I was living in, and I followed him. Well, in the process of following him, we didn't have enough money to get an apartment, didn't have enough money to do what we need to do, so we stayed with a friend of mine in Warner Robins. Well, that was time she let us did a little work and paid us a little here and there. But in the process of that, my wilderness experience at that time was the lady that was helping us, he was sleeping with her. And the Lord showed me in a dream that they had been together. And I'm like, why are you showing me this, you know? And so I went to my friend and I said to her, I said, I need to tell you something. I said, they in a relationship. She said, don't come here with that. Don't tell me that, Cynthia. Don't say that. I was like, okay, well, nobody believed me. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to just sit here. When you figure it out, God, you figure it out. Because I wasn't going to try to work through it, because I thought I was in love. I was in love with somebody that wasn't loving me. And I said to God, I'm not praying. I've been praying all this time. It didn't help me. So what I want you to do is fix it. So I shut down. That morning before Dave, 3 o'clock in the morning, she left the house and left a note to my friend and told her everything that had went on. My friend got me that next morning, did my hair, washed my hair, prayed over me. She said, I want to do your hair. I'm like, why you want to do my hair? She started praying over me and speaking over my life. And I was like, oh, okay. She said she left a note and told me it was true.
Wow.
I was like, I got to go through this again. Infidelity takes a part of you as a woman. Infidelity is a wilderness because you go inside of yourself. You start looking at yourself and labeling yourself, saying to yourself, I'm not worthy. Why this happened to me? He don't love me. Nobody's never going to be good for me. And so when I found out that that was the case, I left her, my friend, and still went to Atlanta with him. Out of knowing, struggled, lost everything. When I tell you, stayed in the car. So I went from one wilderness experience to the next. But can I tell you what I did in the process? The Lord just told me one word, breathe.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
So if I'm going to survive in the wilderness, I got to breathe. Because survive means, in the Hebrew, it means this, to live again and again. And so if you're living, you got to learn to breathe. Take a breath. So that you can, because that breath is what gets you over and into the places that you need to get to. So I just kept breathing. I didn't fuss, I didn't fight. I just said, let me breathe for a minute. And I breathed. That was my way of getting through it. I just took deep breath. Every time I thought about it, I had to take a deep breath to help get through that hurt and that pain and that process of that one.
Oh, wow. And I definitely want to go back to the relationship piece, but you know, we have a licensed professional counselor. So I really would like for her to give a couple of strategies.
You know, I think it's amazing that I'm here amongst ladies. We all have kind of the same story this morning, and I've been in both places where, you know, you trust God and then you be like, I ain't praying anymore. And, you know, from a counseling strategy, I guess, you know, I did a lot of journaling and I did a lot of self-reflection, and I had to do my own forgiveness. You know, I had to buy books that I've recommended for my own clients. I had to use those books myself and just do my work. You know, we hear all the time, do your work. As a therapist, you say you got to do your work, you got to do your work. But then as a therapist, I had to do my own work. You know, I had to go in and reflect. You know, when she said that when you go through infidelity, you start to think about, well, why am I not good enough? Why didn't he love me? You know, why did he leave me? What is it about her? You know, you go through all those questions, but you have to go back and find you. You know, it's amazing how when we love someone, we will give ourselves till we give ourselves away. And you know, we have to also look at the wilderness from a different standpoint. You know, we think of wilderness as a place that we need to run from. And you know, I was thinking that God had to escape to the wilderness himself for peace and time away. And sometimes we need to run to the wilderness and to find ourselves, to find what we lost about us, and just to rejuvenate, to restart, to reset. So some of the things would be just, you know, reflect on who you are. Remember what your strengths are. Remember what your morals are, and build upon those, and then learn how to trust yourself again. You know, we put our trust in someone else, but we often have stopped trusting ourselves, and we have that inner instinct and that inner voice that's telling us that's not right and don't do that, and we neglect that voice. But in the wilderness, sometimes that's all you have is yourself and God, and that's exactly, sometimes that's all you need.
That's it. That's good. That's a lot of times that's where he wants us. And a lot of times people think it's a place of punishment, but really he's preparing you for something. And you might want to run. And sometimes you can just sink into such a deep depression that you just feel like there is no hope for my situation. And so what we want to do today is just let everybody know that there is hope. There is hope for your situation, and that even if you feel like this is it, because you're not seeing things work out the way that you wanted them to work out, I want to go ahead and stop that train of thought right now. So the next thing I want to do is I want to ask you all, what do you think about a situation, and we're going to stay in the relationship sphere right now, a situation where you've been in a physically abusive relationship, an unhealthy relationship, a relationship where there's been infidelity, and you, maybe he didn't leave you, but you finally got the strength to leave. And then you're like, okay, I know I need to go, you go. And then maybe a month passed, 2 months passed, and then what happens, y'all? You start getting lonely, and your confidence drops. Well, I hadn't had anybody to ask me for my number, so I guess I might as well go. And it just brought me back to the, you know, the children of Israel, how they just wanted to go back. They were like, they thought it would be better to go back to slavery. So it's like sometimes when God is taking you to a new place, you got to figure out how to handle the gap, that space in between. He pulled you out, and then your promised land is over here, but you got to get there. But you're like, I think I'd rather go back, because getting there is going to take some work. So I want us to talk about that gap. Like, how do you handle that piece, that time frame in between him pulling you out and his promise, because it's not automatic.
No, it's most definitely not automatic. I remember the story of Ruth. Ruth found herself in a transitional place, having to give up what she's used to, her comfort zone, to move to something that she was unfamiliar. Well, when we're in a relationship and we in love, we think that's what we are comfortable. That's what we are used to. We've learned to adapt to a place of despair. A lot of time we learn to deal with trouble better than we deal with the better. because that's a place where we're familiar with and we're used to. And it's kind of hard. We as people will not move sometime into an unfamiliar place because we don't have the guidelines. Somebody's not giving us the tools. And so we decide to just revert back because we're comfortable.
Yes.
What Ruth did in the gap part, she made a decision to do something that she didn't even know how to do. She went to the field. She started working in an area that she felt like could get her into a different place. Now watch this. It wasn't that she was doing it to get him. It wasn't, I'm not doing it to get another man. I'm not doing it to be seen. I'm doing it to be better at where I am. So where I am, the way we fill the gap, we have to learn to put something in the middle. We have to learn to start speaking life to our situation, to us, begin to say words that's going to build us so that we won't go back, because we all go back at some point. And we realize that the back is not the better. Going forward is better than going backward. But you have to fill the gap. Fill the gap with the Word of God. Fill the gap with being busy doing something positive, making a positive impact on the community. Find somewhere you can go in and say, can I help you? Be a volunteer. You know, you see what I'm saying? Be a volunteer. And, you know, because we can church all day long, but what can you do outside of that? Because that's going to be a comfort zone too. Because we'll run to the church just to get, you know, a feel-good moment. You know what I'm saying? So find something to do in that place. Yeah.
Okay, Elder Renee.
I remember when I was in that situation, when I finally got the strength and the courage to go and get my own place. And when I got my place, the bills was coming in because I wasn't accustomed to paying bills because my husband was the breadwinner. So the bills were coming in and it became kind of strenuous on me. And so next thing you know, and I know that God had me in that place, but because I was familiar with a certain situation, I was familiar with not taking care, with not paying the bills, I was familiar with not being the provider of the home. I wound up going back to that situation. I was reaching back out to him, knowing that if I went back, you know, this could cost me my life. Knowing I was putting myself and my kids back in danger. But because I was familiar with it, and just like you mentioned earlier about the children of Israel, they were familiar, and they were not willing to change their mindset. They could not see what was ahead of them. They kept looking at what they were used to. And so I was familiar with, you know, having it made. But at the same time, I really didn't have it made. I was living in bondage because I was constantly being beaten. You know, I was constantly being called all types of names. I was in bondage. And when I got free, I wanted to go back into the bondage because I didn't know who I was. And I didn't love myself enough to see, okay, you know what, God loves me. You know, God's going to take care of me. And I wound up back into that situation. But I just want to say that, you know, when God puts you in a place, when he moves you from one place to the next, it's for your good.
That's right. That's right.
Yes, a lot of times we try to fight against where he is taking us. And sometimes when you pull out of something and you start looking back, the enemy will say to you, it wasn't really that bad.
That's right.
You could have stayed, you know, all he did was cheat, you know, all men cheat. Have y'all heard that before? Right? So they, you know, the enemy starts making you think, well, you know, you would have still had your husband if you would have just forgiven and taken him back. So you got to fight all of these thoughts, plus the loneliness, plus it does have a financial impact on you. When you get, and even if you're not married, and we don't condone that, but even if you're not married and you're dating somebody and they're taking care of you, they're paying your rent for you. A lot of women, can we keep it real? A lot of women are in relationships because this person is helping to take care of them, and they're like, I want to leave. He's physically abusing me, verbally abusing me, but I feel like if I leave, then what am I going to do? How am I going to feed my children? How am I going to pay my rent? And so it starts feeling a little tempting to go back. So I want you to jump on that one.
right. So my story is a little bit different because when it took me forever to make the decision to, like, you know what, I ain't doing this no more. You know, but financially I could take care of myself.
That's good.
And as a woman, being able to take care of yourself, I don't think I ever wanted to go back. When I finally made the decision, it's like, we ain't going back. So, I mean, I had the means to take my kids on vacation. I had the means to go places. I had the means to, you know, take care of myself and go and have fun and go to the movies, but I had to learn how to do those things sometimes by myself. So, you know, learn how to be alone. And I think that's one of the things that keeps us in relationships that's not good for us, because we haven't learned how to be alone. You know, learn how to be alone with yourself. Learn how to be alone with God, you know, and then learn who you are. You know, it was a whole relearning process, because for 20 years, all I did was take care of other people. So I had to learn how to take care of me, myself, and you know, there were times where I was completely alone. And when you've gone from having a house full to an empty house, that's a wilderness place. And you're lonely. Yeah, you have all those thoughts, you know, but, you know, just learning how to, okay, God, I'm here in this house and it's empty. So what we gonna do? You know, I have danced, I have praised, I have done all kinds of things in my house, and I had to learn how to just learn to be peaceful and be alone, and it has been priceless. So just learn how to be okay with where you are, and I think that's what keeps us in places that we don't need to be, because we haven't learned how to be okay where we are. You know, and just ask God, okay, God, I'm here and I believe you want me to be here. Now help me to be okay in being where I am. And that's one of the things I did. And also work. You know, I worked a lot more, you know, so that was one of the things that I probably wouldn't suggest. You know, don't work yourself to death to get past the loneliness, but learn how to be okay with being alone and taking yourself out and being okay with just doing things by yourself. I actually got in my car and went to the beach all by myself. It was lonely, but it was peaceful, you know, and it was priceless. So I even encourage my clients to be okay and take a trip by yourself and do those things.
Wow. So y'all, we are almost out of time. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna give each of you a few minutes, or really a minute, to give us some final thoughts, and then let everyone know how they can reach you. So I'll start with you, Pastor Cynthia.
Well, I just want to tell you to do it afraid. Do it afraid. You know, don't do it scared, but do it afraid. Do it to the point where it's going to scare you a little bit, but it's going to move you out of that abusive relationship, or that relationship that's not conducive for you. I just want you to know, all of us have dealt with what you're going through. But you can come out of it now. You can come out of it in a decision. You make the decision, and God will help you come out of it. Because He said He'll never leave you or forsake you. So my name is Pastor Cynthia Boone. I am the owner of the Rena Project. Listen, my husband is Bishop Timothy Boone. We have a church in 2 locations, Kingdom Covenant Christian Ministry. I have had a phenomenal time. We're praying for you that you can get out of that relationship if it's not good for you.
Amen.
My name is Elder Renee Ingram. I am the founder of Beautiful Ashes Outreach Ministries. I want to encourage someone today that your pain, if you allow God to move in the midst of your pain, it will get you to your purpose. Your pain will get you to your purpose. You're not going through what you're going through with. You're not dealing with what you're dealing with for you. But just know that someone else needs what you have.
Yes.
That's good. All right.
Okay. Well, I'm LaShanna Stevens, and I'm the founder of Sound Advice Counseling in Macon, Georgia. And I want to take it from a perspective of, if you're struggling with a decision, don't be afraid to seek a therapist, a counselor, to help you make that decision, to help you weigh the pros, the cons, and because sometimes we're not able to do those things alone. So if you're in need of a therapist, I mean, you don't have to come to me, but I am available, Sound Advice Counseling, LLC. You can look me up on Google and also on Facebook and Instagram.
Awesome. And yes, really quick, ladies, share your social media or how they can reach you online.
You can reach me on Facebook. It's spelled Rena, but it's pronounced Renee. So it's Rena, Ingram, Ingram. Also, you can go to our Beautiful Ashes page on Facebook. Instagram, I am author Glenda Renee. Also on LinkedIn, I am Renee Ingram.
Great.
I am Cynthia Boone on Facebook. On Instagram, I am Boone_Cynthia. You can reach me on Twitter and LinkedIn. You can just Cynthia Boone. You'll see my little face there.
Well, you all have been fabulous, fabulous, fabulous.
Bless you.
I'm telling you, you all really gave some nuggets, some really practical strategies. And I feel like in this time, people really need practical strategies.
Yes.
Like, I know I need to pray. I know I need to read the Bible. I know I need to do praise and worship. I know. But sometimes you just be so stuck.
Yes.
You're going through so much that you
Yes.
can't even think clearly. And you're like, I need a strategy.
Yes.
Like, oh, breathe. Okay. Oh, get up, get out of the bed, go and do something, make a phone call, go for a walk. I need something practical.
That's right.
Because you got to pick yourself up.
That's right.
That wilderness will beat you down.
Yes, it will.
Yes, it will.
That wilderness will beat you down. So I'm so happy that you chose to spend some time with us today. Listen, you do not have to be defeated. Our God, He always, always, always keeps His promises. So it might feel like your situation is not going to improve, but I'm here to tell you that it will. What you've got to do is trust God.
Yeah.
And sometimes instead of saying, God, pull me out, say, God, get me through. Get me through, God. Give me the strength. It's not by my strength. It's not by my might, but by your spirit, God. I need you to fight this battle. I need you to make a way. I need you to make a way in the wilderness and rivers in the desert. I need you to lift up my spirit.
Yes.
You can't always count on you, but you can always count on God. So again, thank you so much for joining us. Where you have reached the show, we are always talking about relevancy. We're always real, and we always want to make sure that our discussions are profitable. Until next time, God bless.